All right, welcome into the Auburn Live Show, the Modcast. As we do every week, joined by Cole Pinkston, Jeffrey Lee, and Keith Niebuhr. What's up, fellas? How's everybody doing this Thursday morning?
A little cold.
It is a little chilly. It's a beautiful day, but cold for sure. A couple cold mornings.
Jeffrey is a cold weather. He is a cold weather guy. I am not. I'm a hot weather guy. So this is not.
I'm a cold weather guy if I have the right gear.
Yes.
Yeah. Sure. And listen, I invest in right gear.
So
in the right gear.
What's the temperature? Obviously, I'm in Tampa. What's the temperature in Auburn, Montgomery right now?
It was 36 when I walked outside earlier.
I think it's 56 here. This is fur boot weather down here, and that's just dudes. You know, I don't know what the women are wearing, but
yeah, it's 37.
That's pretty cold. That's pretty cold. I like it cold. I mean, 40s and 50s. Actually, 50s, 55 to 65. I think is about perfect.
Yeah. I sat on my back porch this morning and had some coffee. I'm not a big coffee drinker, but I'll sip on the cup. And it was 33, and but it was the winds. If the wind's not blowing, it's not a freezing 33.
Yeah.
So I had it felt really good.
You a decaf guy, or are you going like?
Hell no. I don't drink it for the flavor. I promise you that.
Specially ordered beans. You do all that yourself?
No, dude. I'm a generic K-Cup Great Value brand K-Cup guy.
It's kind of like coffee's like wine to me. I can't tell the difference between McDonald's coffee and Starbucks coffee.
You'll never catch me paying $7 for a freaking cup of coffee. I promise you that.
Starbucks. Yeah. I don't do coffee.
Not a coffee guy, period.
If I never drank coffee again, it would be okay.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I swear I'll sip it. I probably drink 20% of a cup of coffee and pour it out.
I was down. I had a friend stay overnight last week, and he got 2 cups in the morning. And I think I drink 2 cups of coffee about every 4 months. But then I was in Miami recently, and they do those little Cuban shots down there, the shot of Cuban coffee. And it's like this big. That's it. And it's supposed to be as powerful as like a giant cup of, Starbucks.
Yeah, just do that. Just give me a little shooter. Boom, we're done.
I don't even know if I feel it. Like, it's not like it wakes. I don't know, man. I think it's a novelty for me,
Yeah.
I've always thought it's kind of like sushi. It's one of those things people feel like if they say they don't like it, they're not cool. They got to be cool to drink. Like if I'm not drinking coffee, I must not.
Jeffrey, just get you a big old novel and put it on your back porch next time you're drinking a cup of coffee, and it'll just kind of complete the.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and then you'll be.
Well, Jeff's got a whole bookcase full of leather-bound novels.
Smells of rich.
Smelling of rich mahogany. Man. All right, let's jump into this. What a weekend. Auburn wins the game, breaks a 5-game losing streak, beats a completely reeling Texas A&M team that is mind-blowingly bad for the talent they have. But for Auburn, none of that mattered. For Auburn, it was a win. It was a chance for the defense to play. Well, it's probably the best game they've played, obviously against the Dolphins that was struggling. Offensively, did enough to win. Running game was really good and creative, but I think the atmosphere and everything was sort of what everybody took away from that was just some relief from the fans. You could feel it in the stands. What was kind of everybody's takeaway, I guess, from that weekend? We know A&M is what they are. Like, that wasn't what that was about. But what was everybody's takeaway in just terms of even going back to Friday, the Football Performance Center? And, man, I couldn't believe, by the way, we did the tour Friday. They opened it up at 4 for a public open house. I could not believe the amount of fans that were in line. I'm talking about down the stairs, down Biggio, down the street, around the corner. I couldn't believe the amount of fans that heard about that and wanted to see it that Friday. I was blown away by that. So I think that in the game, it was just a good weekend, I thought.
Yeah, Jessica and I were going to take the boys to see that to see the new facility. And I can't remember what it was, but we decided not to go. And then I saw somebody tweet that it was around the corner. The line was around the corner. And I said, shit, I'm glad we didn't go. But as far as Saturday goes, I was expecting that electric atmosphere. Man, it might have been even a little better. And I'm not saying it was standing room only. It was cold as shit, man. Let me tell you, it was cold. So
Yeah.
I don't blame those folks in the upper deck for heading out whenever they did, because it wasn't full by the end of the game, not close. But man, there was a different vibe inside that stadium. There was a different vibe. It was impressive. One of the better ones I've seen.
Certainly compared to the 2 or 3 prior weeks. I mean, it was night and day. And those people in the upper deck. I mean, you can see the flag up there just kicking. Like, no doubt it was too cool to be up there. The ones that stayed, y'all troopers. But man, I mean, it was loud again. It was, the pregame was awesome. I said it on the board. I don't really care what people think. If you disagree, I think that was the coolest thing in the world when they interviewed Cadillac coming out with arms locked and everything. It was awesome, man. It was really cool. People on TV were like, man, I'm ready to run through a brick wall, So I thought the energy was awesome before the game started. It was awesome.
My takeaways, I didn't get to go to the game. I had a friend of mine. I'll give you a quick one here. A friend of mine who went to UF with me. He got in a little argument with his wife, so he needed a place to stay for a couple of days. All right. So I'm having God, I mean, it's like taking care of a little kid sometimes. That was my roommate in college, the guy that always needed, funniest guy in the world. But anyway, he couldn't believe that the Auburn game was sold out. He's like, I can't, we're watching the game. He's like, you got to be kidding me. Well, I mean, this is 2 terrible teams. I said, dude, I've covered Auburn 9.5 years now. Not as long as you guys, but 9.5 years. And that's what the fan base is. I mean, that's who these people are. They don't mail it in until every fan base mails it in at some point. You just, it's terrible weather. The season stinks. And you say, I'm not going to go. But that happens everywhere. But this fan base just never surprises me. They're always there. They're always supportive, and that's what I saw, and that's what I expected. And that part was great. Unfortunately, the game, obviously Auburn won, but look, you'd always rather win than lose, but it certainly showed a lot of Auburn's deficiencies because A&M's hurt, hurting mentally too. Something's wrong with that team. The wheels have completely come off, and Auburn only won by 3. I mean, you take a win, don't get me wrong, but it shows that Auburn's got a long way to go. I know some people on the board have said, well, it's hard to get the offense going for both teams because of the wind. And I get that, but if you're a quarterback, you're going to play in the wind in the NFL too. It's part of the game, rain, everything. It was just an ugly game and a beautiful game at the same time, I would say. And it was, I don't know, it was great to see the interview. I don't know. See, y'all were there. I'm watching it on TV, and I thought Cole Kubelik just did such a great job with his sideline interviews, with his pregame interview with Cadillac, really capturing the emotion and energy in that place, letting them talk, but also having give and take with them. And Cadillac, he wasn't incredibly smooth in his interviews because the emotions were getting him, and I think that's great. He wasn't robotic. So there was
very authentic.
Yeah, there was so much to like and love, and hell, that Auburn fan base is unbelievable. But then, then you look at the team and you say, okay, there's a lot of work ahead.
I think most people are past the whole team deal and how they're playing and the deficiencies. Oh man, we should run the ball more. And I think people are past that, dude. Nobody thinks Auburn's going to beat Alabama. I think they expect to beat Western Kentucky, but at this point, it's like they don't care. They care more about the program and rallying around these players and these coaches and Carnell Williams than they do walking out of that stadium going, oh, we should have beat them 27-10. Robbie Ashford can't hit shit. And, you're going to get some of that. But overall, dude, I think they're past the whole, the team, the performance of the team. They want to see the fight.
I told you guys when I was a kid, the school I went to didn't win a game one season. And 40 years later, people look back fondly on that team. They went through 5 quarterbacks. Everybody got injured. Their star player had a guy named Scott Brantley had a life-altering injury and couldn't play. But they look back fondly because the guys never quit, okay? And I think you're right, Jeffrey. I'm looking at the team and saying they got a lot of work ahead. But the fans are probably looking at this team and saying, man, what a lot of fight in these guys and the coaching staff and Cadillac and these boys. And they probably will look back fondly on this team because 20 years down the road, if you didn't win a championship, nobody cares about your record anyway. What were the memories that were made? And I wish I would have been there the other night because I've been to all those great Auburn games, and it looked like everybody was having fun. You know what I mean? It looked like everybody was having fun. Yeah. And isn't that what it's – I mean, I know it sounds so cheesy.
That's exactly right.
What it's all about, man. One team's going to win a damn championship, and that's it. And everybody else is just kind of just playing and or just played. And I don't know what I'm trying to say, but it looked like fun, man. It looked like people were having fun.
It was fun. And let's don't forget, Justin, that all those former players, the 2004 team, and, man, I on the field before the game, it was hard for me to look for recruits because I was seeing all these guys. That was my first year here. That was my first year as when I was at Rivals, 2004. So I went from a fan in 2003 cussing Brandon Jacobs out because he was flicking us all off, running off the field, to covering Auburn in 2004. Couldn't cheer, and here they are going undefeated. And Jason Campbell, Ronnie Brown, Cadillac, Trey Smith, and then all those guys coming back. A.T. Williams. I took a picture with A.T. Williams. To me, that was my favorite linebacker duo. 2004, man. A.T. Williams and Travis Williams. Little bitty dudes.
Yeah, and Terrius, and then you had stud Marcus McNeil. I saw was there. Brandon Johnson was there, who, if anybody remembers, was just a nasty fullback. Whew.
Brett Edens.
Yeah.
Oh gosh,
that was cool to see those guys back. And supporting
Ben Obamanu, Devin Romashadu were both there. If y'all remember Oscar Gonzalez, Will Herring was there. Oscar Gonzalez, who was with Oscar? I can't remember now. Oscar was he was a 2-star offensive lineman. I don't know that he ever did anything in Auburn.
He was from Florida, right?
Mm-hmm, yep. He was there. There was a lot of guys there. Brandon Cox was there.
Mm-hmm.
It was cool.
Oh, I miss Brandon Cox.
Yeah, one of my favorites.
Yeah, that was for Cornell. That was pretty awesome. And really for
Carlos Rogers.
Carlos Rogers was there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then I saw even a few. I mean, Jonathan Jones was back. Obviously, he wasn't before, but he's back. And Gerard Powers was there. He was a little bit. He was like 07, 08 kind of.
But you know what? You know what? A couple of them said to me, "It's nice to be welcomed back." That was not the case in the previous staff. And that was when we can talk about Harson's faults and all that, but he never really embraced the Auburn tradition. And I think Keith has said it best. The things that he did do were so orchestrated and so non-organic.
Yeah. It
was kind of cringe, as Brooks would say. Cringe AF.
Yeah, you're talking about like handing out breakfast. The thing that always got me was the handing out the breakfast sandwiches before a basketball game, which is great, except when you have like cameramen following you everywhere. Just go do it.
Yeah.
Just do it. Just wear sunglasses. Pretend like you're a student. Do that thing that we saw Eli Manning do at Penn State. Have fun, where he pretended to be a walk. Whatever, man. Embrace it. And I get it, man. You can't always do that. But when you're trying to change a PR narrative or win a PR battle, you don't do it with contrived stuff. And maybe that wasn't him. Maybe that was the advice he was getting. But
right.
I talked to a lot of people like you guys that thought it was like, okay, it's good that he was trying, but that's the best that he'd come up with.
Mm-hmm.
Go in the stands, in the basketball stands, put on the shades, and then the first time out, leave. You know what I mean?
Humility. He didn't have. He just had an arrogance from day one about him. And when you have that kind of arrogance, those things don't matter to you. You just kind of think you're above the situation. Like, I'm here to fix things, guys. Like I'm here to fix the problems you guys have. Like we need alignment. And I'm here to fix it all because I know everything. And his attitude towards everything.
And if you're really trying to be creative, the four of us here could have come up with cooler ideas than that, if we're being totally honest. I just thought of one while Justin was talking. How about Harsin could have run out of the tunnel in basketball warm-ups with the team? I mean, something fun, something like, all right, everybody, let's just laugh now. Not let me put on these RoboCop glasses or Terminator glasses and look like Mr. Cool because I'm the alpha.
What's funny is whether that was however contrived, however, whatever, people liked it. It doesn't really matter. They don't need to, you don't have to be that genuine. Just try.
Yeah.
Act like you care. Fake it a little bit. Let me tell you something for everybody watching. Bruce Pearl, many of the things he does because he knows it's going to play well, and he knows Auburn fans want to hear it. Now, does he love Auburn? Yeah, man. He loves being here. But he also knows how to work a room, and he knows what people need to see and hear, and he does it, and he does it with enthusiasm. And you don't know, he might do a video, and he might leave that video and go, I need to practice. Like, it's kind of whatever. Good, great, glad we did that. Now can I go practice ball? But you don't know that.
You think him taking off his shirt, jumping in the stands last year against Georgia and flexing his muscles and stuff, dude, he knew what he was doing. And to this day, you still see that. I mean, I use it every time he gets a commitment or something, you know? I mean, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, just try, man. Just try. Harsin was like Barbie in a lot of ways. Just like, God, just a not a fun human being. All right, enough about Harsin and Barbie. Ugh.
There you go.
Yeah, so Auburn gets the win. I think you're right, Jeffrey. I think people are I think they're pretty much over critiquing the team. They are what they are. We
right.
All know they are. Robbie's completed like 13 balls the last 2 weeks. I mean, it is what it is. I think they just wanted to see fight, a little bit of continuity, closing a game out. Like that was good to see. We'll see what happens against Western Kentucky, who's plenty capable, especially offensively, to win this game if Auburn makes mistakes and turns the ball over. That's the thing about A&M. That game shouldn't have been 13-10. I mean, even with all the turnovers, it was 13-3 until A&M's last drive of the game, in which Auburn kind of, I think, took a step back a tad on defense. That game, without the turnovers and stuff, it should have been 17-3. Should have been similar to what it was the last year in College Station. But yeah, I think fans are past critiquing. They know what they are. They're thinking about the next head coach. Do they want to play competitive? Yeah. I mean, if Auburn goes and loses Western Kentucky, there's going to be some critiquing going on. They're going to be upset about it, but not nearly as much as you would expect.
Aubie's going to lose to this guy?
Uh-oh. There he is.
It's a pretty great mascot. When you're a school like Western Kentucky and you don't get much attention, that's kind of the thing everybody sort of knows. You know what I mean?
Like calling Big Red. I don't know what that's supposed to
learned while doing the scouting reports for Western Kentucky that they refer to themselves a lot as the Hill, which I thought was cool.
Yeah.
Is that what that red thing is? A hill?
Hilltopper.
They're the Hilltopper.
And they've always, not always, but in recent memory, they've always had pretty solid offenses, entertaining offenses. Remember, there was some chatter the last few years. People wanted Auburn to go after their OC at the time. Remember?
He was in the mix. Yeah, right. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember his name, but yeah. So it's and wasn't Clay Helton there at one time? Was he not there?
I'll trust you. I don't remember.
There's a
I'll look it up.
Well, look at they had Bailey Zappi. I mean, who was the quarterback that just got drafted from there?
That's the guy. I think.
Was it Bailey Zappi? And then now they're fourth in the country in scoring and fourth in the country in attempts, passing attempts. So it'll be a fun game. What I liked was Cornell on Monday, and it's so refreshing. I'm not going back to Harsin. This is a praise on Cornell. It's just refreshing to have some humility from the head coach. And Cornell on Monday, he was praising the atmosphere against A&M, and he said, "Hey, Western Kentucky is a good team." And he's like, "We need another." He's like, he's actually said, we need another atmosphere like that. Like, it's the last home game, come have fun. But just a coach saying, I need it, we need it, we need the help. Just like after the game when he was so emotional and said, "Man, listening to him talk about being scared is incredible." I thought that was incredible to hear anybody in that position have the vulnerability to say, they approached me and asked me, and I was terrified. Like I was terrified of being, I didn't know, basically saying, I don't know what to do. I can't believe they're going to ask me to do this. I'm not ready for that. But I went to my coaches and my players and they backed me up. I thought that was amazing to listen to him just honest about that. You would never hear that from a lot of coaches. Certainly the one we just had. You would never hear something that showed vulnerability, like, "Hey, I don't know all the answers, man. I'm going to get it wrong. I need help." I don't know. It was so refreshing to hear from Carnell. He just kind of continues to hit the right notes in terms of what he's saying on the heels of kind of what we've dealt with the last year and a half.
But by the way, obviously Tyson Helton is the coach at Western Kentucky, but Clay had never worked there. For some reason, I thought Clay worked there a long time ago, but I don't see that on his bio.
Hey, here you go, Hilltoppers. The campus is atop a hill in Bowling Green, Kentucky, that overlooks the surrounding region. In 1911, much of the campus was moved atop the hill, and students were seen carrying supplies up the hill to the new location, hence Hilltopper.
Huh.
Very unique.
I like that nickname.
Hell yeah.
We're in Bowling Green.
Bowling Green.
We have two universities literally in Bowling Green. And how big is that place? You have Bowling Green and Western Kentucky.
Yeah.
I'm one of those nerds that goes down the rabbit holes and likes to see how teams got their nicknames, like the Yankees, which who they were before they were the Yankees and all that. So Hilltopper's pretty interesting. So it's interesting. Okay.
Hilltopper.
They got to look.
I think it's interesting.
It's fun to watch their games when the last decade or so. You know,
I can't believe Auburn. By the way, thinking of those unique names, I can't believe Auburn didn't end up like as the Plainsmen. Like I'm almost shocked of how they end up being called the Plains. Like everything about Auburn, and then they just were like Tigers.
It's funny, but it's funny when you go back and if you look up like articles from 100 years ago, a lot of the schools like LSU sometimes would be referred to as the Purple Lightning or something. You know what I mean? Like it's funny how and then the name just sort of morphed into something. You know,
they should have been the Bengals.
Yeah,
or something. Are they the Bengal Tigers?
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like when you're trying to name your kid, and you've got all these names, and you settle on John. I mean, no offense, John.
Sorry, John. But it is. The Tigers. It's like the SEC just kind of did that. You got two Tigers, you got two Bulldogs.
You got three, Missouri.
Oh yeah! Oh my gosh, you have three Tigers. Yeah.
Well, 25% of the SEC is Tigers. I don't think that's my math's correct.
It's not.
I thought there were 12 teams. My bad. 3 out of 12. 3 out of 12 is 25%, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but my 12's wrong. 14. They're 14.
Yeah, about
okay.
16. Right.
I was stuck in the 90s.
Great weekend for recruits. I mean,
it was.
Anything? I mean, did they change anybody's mind? Did anybody go, "Whoa"? Like, okay, this is a side of Auburn I haven't seen.
The Miami Central guys were all really blown away. Tony Mitchell was there again. I thought that was big. The official visitors, you had Stanquan Clark, you had Lamar Seymour, you had Brian Longwell, the linebacker from Nashville, first game at Auburn, and I thought he said, he made reference to the 3-win team, and he's looking around going, man, these people really love some Auburn.
Yeah.
He was like, I expected it to be electric, but I didn't have any idea it was going to be like this. Again, this was a 3-win team. Who else was there?
When I talked to DeQuavius Story not too long ago, I think it was the day that Brian Harsin was fired, he said, I'm in, but, I'm looking around. I'm going to make sure that I got my options open. Well, he really seemed like he changed his mind on that and was all in with Auburn this weekend. I talked to him a little bit, and he was pretty much blown away with how quick it just – the bounce back. And I think that was his quote, like it just bounced back like it was nothing. And that's amazing. So I think he's still – depending on what the new staff wants, he's committed right now. That's for sure, 100%. So he was good, and Clay Whedon was there, the other two official visitors that were committed to Auburn, and several guys. I mean, to me, Keldrick Falk. He's a guy.
Keldrick Falk. There you go. Jeremiah Cobb.
And I've been pretty in tune with him, but couldn't get an answer from his camp. Before the game, were they coming? Were they not? And they were like, not sure. And then he shows up, and I didn't ever see any family with him. Which they're usually all together. He was always with coaches the whole weekend or the whole game, and then was out at midfield with Coach Cadillac. So, and everything we've heard since says, Auburn's really making a move with him.
Quay Rusall did not come. James Smith didn't come. I think Cole said Quay had flu.
Yeah.
I think we're trying to get it all confirmed. People get mad when we break news on the show and not whatever. I think there's a chance those guys will be at Auburn this weekend. Those two guys.
Nice.
I think they've been now they will have been to every home game except 2.
Yeah,
it's pretty good.
Yeah, you get the right coach in. Depending on what happens, you guys are closer to it. I'm on the out. I don't follow it on the details, but I feel like you get the right guy in there, and Rusall, Smith, Falk, like those 3, right coach, right NIL promises. I mean, I would think those 3 are in play.
Man, those are some potential program changing class right there. Reuben Bain, Keldrick Falk, Quay Rusall, James Smith, Darren Reed. That's a trajectory changing group.
Yeah,
that'd be big.
I'd be curious to know Ole Miss's recruiting class and how that's how many guys from their class are maybe there's got to be 4 or 5 guys over there that like if you ask somebody at Auburn right now, they're probably like there's probably 4 or 5 guys on that class they probably take right now. But curious to see who might be an option to come over if Lane happens. Let's talk a little coaching real quick, and then we'll do prize picks, and then we'll do Auburn, Western Kentucky. Coaching-wise, I mean, we've kind of just hit a period right now where I think they're a little bit quiet. I think Lane is still the guy until we hear that he's completely turned Auburn down. And then I think they're still continuing to do their work behind the scenes. It's kind of like I told the people at on Auburn Live. Cohen's still talking to people. He's still doing his job. And, I mean, if nothing else, you got to do that, obviously, because if Kiffin doesn't work out, you need to be moving along. It also can create some leverage there. If you've got some other high-profile coaches or whatever that you're working on, it can create some leverage for you to try to get an answer from Kiffin or kind of seal that deal or whatever it might be. Timeline-wise, I mean, I think they've got to announce this thing right after the Iron Bowl, right after, meaning Sunday, Monday. I can't imagine. If it gets to Tuesday, honestly, I'll be surprised, unless it's just a logistical thing in terms of announcing it. I don't think they need to go much beyond that. And so I think it's just privately, how do you wrap somebody up right now? The good thing is a lot of people are talking about wrapping a coach up and how does that work? How does it not leak? You only got like a week. I mean, look, like let's say right now that Kiffin agreed to the job and we don't know it privately. You've got a game, a post game. So he's got one post game where he's going to be asked a lot about the game that just happened. He might get a couple questions about Auburn, but he's going to be asked about Arkansas. Okay. You have one press conference. You have his weekly press conference. That's the one he would have to get through. And then that's it. Then he hops on a teleconference. That's nothing. And hold on, you're muted.
Muted.
That's Jessica. Has no one asked him about the Auburn job?
They did a week ago, I think, on the teleconference, and he said, he just kind of was like, gave the very general answer, and then that was it. He really hadn't been badgered about it. And then somebody asked him about Deion. He's like, Deion would be a great hire. He hadn't really been badgered about it. So, but since the kind of, I think the level of interest in the reporting has dialed up, he hasn't really had to face it, and so he really will have to face it post game and then a press conference, and then that's it. Teleconference, that's easy because you're on the phone, and then let's just say he plays the Egg Bowl. Well, after that, he's gone anyway. After the game, he's gone. So it's not like he's got to drag this thing out for like 3 weeks and deal with questions. And it's like, who cares? I mean, it's a couple of press conferences and it's over with at this point.
So nobody over there in that media market's really brought it up?
Right. He had a weekly press conference.
I thought those guys had all the guts and, I'm just kidding. I like some of them. There are people I liked over there, but
I haven't seen many quotes come out of that other than the teleconference quote from maybe a week ago after Harsin was fired. He was asked, and he gave kind of I don't even remember his answer, but it was a generic question, and then the follow-up was about Dion, and that was it.
And I'm sort of just kidding because, you're going to get something like that.
I'm not. Well, if there were an Auburn coach being rumored as heavily as Lane Kiffin has been since Sunday, and Auburn's coach came to the podium on Tuesday for his weekly press conference, 90% of that press conference, at least the majority of it, would be all about getting something out of that coach to either deny it. I can't believe Kiffin has gone Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and now Thursday without being given a direct question about the Auburn opening.
Well, no, I'm not going to argue. I just, they know what he's going to say probably, and then
you still got to ask.
Well, okay, fair enough. I'm assuming they're getting stuff behind the scenes, when the press conference is over, that kind of thing. But it is,
they know him personally.
Yeah,
I was just making a little veiled shot
from our friends at Ole Miss Spirit, the On3 Ole Miss site. Our guys that do a good job at Ole Miss Spirit. Yep. This is the rundown of the teleconference, which was Wednesday. Opening statement. Your game against Arkansas last year.
No.
KJ Jefferson. They asked him about Kendall Browse and Josh Heupel stuff. They asked him about it being cold weather. He got asked about some freshman offensive linemen. He got asked about Jackson Dart. He got asked about, here's a good one. How much winter weather gear are you taking to Fayetteville? That was asked.
Oh, yeah.
Arkansas has been playing a new kid at corner. What do you think about that? Did you notice Arkansas? So if he was asked a question about Auburn, they didn't put it in here, which would make no sense. So I'm going to assume he wasn't asked one question about. And this was Wednesday. I mean, this is.
Did anybody get his thoughts?
We're talking about Kiffin on Monday and Tuesday. Like, this is in the height of.
Yes, peak.
Yeah.
Did anybody get his thoughts on the midterm elections? I mean, I'm just no.
No, I don't think so. He's talked more. He's probably been asked more questions about Taylor Swift album.
You've got that blows my mind.
Hey guys, there's some serious reports that you're accepting, that you're taking the job.
All of the Auburn sites, all media outlets are reporting you're the most likely candidate to replace now Cadillac Williams, Brian Harsin. And they would rather ask about cold weather and how much gear he's taking.
Two questions.
Let me ask y'all this. I'm sort of
what a beat.
Would it be good or bad for Auburn? Is it good or bad either way that they're not asking? Would it be better if they blew it up and made it a big deal and got the headlines out there? What's better here, in y'all's opinion?
I personally think it matters either way. If you want your guy and he wants to be there, it's going to happen.
Yeah, but I mean, it's better for Auburn that's not asked. If it was better or worse, it's better. So he doesn't have to do. It's just one less thing for him to have to deal with. But it wouldn't matter ultimately in the end if that's what was going to happen. Then you're just going to say whatever you want to say.
What a disservice to their readers and their fans. You go look at an Ole Miss message board. Do you think they're talking about how much gear Kiffin's taking to Arkansas? Do you think they want to know about the cold weather, how it's going to affect the team? Or do you think they want to know about their head coach and what his opinions are about him being the number one candidate, according to several media outlets, including national?
Yeah.
What a disservice.
Yeah.
Could they have been told, again, I'm just speculating, could they have been told, hey, don't, and sometimes in Washington, D.C., they'll say, hey, don't ask the president about this today.
Sure.
That'd have been.
And they still have a job to do.
Yeah.
Is that guy paying their salaries?
Yeah.
But I doubt that happened on I could see maybe that happens at a press conference, like, hey, let's try to get teleconference, man. You're hopping on the phone. There's nobody, you're at home. There's nobody directing you on a teleconference what to say and what not say. The only time I see him, I mean, I'm just looking at our Ole Miss site. They did a podcast talking about it. So they've talked about it kind of in podcast form, opinions, but nothing asking Lane. Wednesday, I can't believe you didn't say, Coach, you got multiple outlets. People are talking about you and your agent, and talking to Auburn and like there's movement here. Are you saying that you're not? There's no movement going on with Auburn? Damn it. There's nothing happening there.
I would almost guarantee you. I know Philip Marshall. Guarantee you that he feels the same way as I do. I also feel like if the roles were reversed, and somebody told Phillip or the beat not to ask, it wouldn't matter.
Yeah.
The Auburn coach being mentioned as the number one candidate for another SEC West school would be asked on Tuesday in his weekly press conference multiple times, unless there was a firm, "Don't ask me again. I'm not." And that's a great quote.
Yeah.
He was frustrated. "Don't ask me again," Joe Blow said. You got to ask the guy. That's inexcusable.
I was kind of, during Jeff's little monologue there, I was kind of hoping all of our faces could just be shrunk and Jeff could take over the whole screen for a minute there. Come on, Jeff, keep it going, man.
I
mean, I've seen nothing pop up.
You've got seasoned veteran reporters over there who have covered the Auburn beat.
They're too busy criticizing what
the
Auburn beat is reporting.
People always criticize, not just that market, but people always want to criticize what the Auburn beat.
It blows my mind.
You got people at AL.com that rip the fan sites too. You know what I mean? Some people think they're the biggest fan site out there, but they're ripping us sometimes.
You got to get a comment, even if it's no comment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now your best shot will be after the game, Arkansas, which they're going to ask about the game. There's really not going to be and it's not a good opportunity because it's after the game. Even if somebody does say, "Hey, coach, I know you just played a game, but what about Auburn?" It's a perfect opportunity for him to go, "Guys, are you kidding me? I just played a game." And nobody will follow up. So he won't really be badgered then either.
Hell, and they might lose, and which would make it even worse. Remember when Roy Williams lost? What, didn't he lose the NCAA championship game one year? And the first question from Tracy Wolfson or somebody like that was, "Hey, are you going to North Carolina?" And he just went nuts.
Yeah,
he just lost his mind, and
then he went to North Carolina, right?
But what is it that methinks doth protest too much? You know what I mean? But no, Jeff's right. I mean, I was just kind of kidding, but Jeff is right. I mean, somebody's got to ask. I mean, hey, somebody's got to take that bullet, I guess. And
and it's interesting because I mean, I'm sort of looking for that right now with where I think things are, which is that I think that nothing's done, nothing's agreed to, but I still think that that's where things are trending at the moment, is that Lane's thinking about it, and that there's a decent chance Auburn can land Lane Kiffin. I was looking for what's going to be said publicly, because I think the plan would be obviously for Jimmy Sexton and Lane Kiffin, hey, now what do we say publicly for the next week? We downplay it, we shoot it down, whatever. And so I was kind of interested in seeing how they did that and what was said and how strong the language was, and because I think it would probably say a lot given the interest we know is there if he just came out and said, "Guys, I'm just worried about Ole Miss."
Yeah, absolutely.
That's all you get, and you know the interest. Like that would be telling to me if he came out and said, "It's like I've been looking for that and I haven't seen it."
This isn't just message board rumor. You got Chris Lowe from ESPN tweeting about it.
Yeah,
multiple occasions that there's interest there. How you go a press conference without asking him about that? It just, I'm very disappointed in the Ole Miss beat.
And Pete Thamel, I think he tweeted about it too. Matter of fact, if anybody has Pete Thamel, I think so we're recording on Thursday. I think Chris Lowe tweeted on Wednesday. He was also on the Next Round live show out of Birmingham, and he talked specifically about Lane Kiffin, specifically about NIL and how important that would be. And he said Auburn's NIL is 10 times what Ole Miss's NIL is, and if Lane made the jump, that would be important. So yeah, Chris Lowe's completely openly talking about it, and I think Pete Thamel may have made a comment about it too, which is interesting. I'm trying to find it because that would be interesting timing if you have two national people on the same day, all of a sudden start to. Well, I don't see it. Maybe you mentioned it in a podcast. The fact that he hasn't been asked about it is crazy. Like I was on a show, I don't even know what day it is, earlier this week. And I just said, they were like, if you're in Vegas, what would you do right now? And I'm like, I'd bet on Lane Kiffin. I think right now, you're asking me right now, I think he's going to be the next head coach. I do. I think that Auburn has thrown the book at him. I'll say this, and I'll put this on the board later, since we're talking about it. I talked to somebody on Wednesday night that's, how do I say this? They're very close to somebody who has a relationship with Lane Kiffin. Okay. And they go out. Their comment to me was, "I'll tell you this: he absolutely wants the job." Given what I think Auburn is offering him and willing to do to try to get him, I would be a little bit surprised if it doesn't happen. I just think Auburn's all in on this thing. Say, hey, you want money? If it's autonomy, whatever. Like we're gonna try to align this thing and do it right. I have a hard time thinking it doesn't come together at the moment.
Well, let me say this. And Cole asked a good question earlier. Is it good or bad for Auburn that he wasn't asked? So if he is the guy, and we've had some insiders on the boards, putting out the Pope smoke, saying it's a done deal. If that is in fact accurate, what you're going to see now is you're going to see a lot of less Lane Kiffin talk. You're probably going to see a lot more guys jumping to the top of the board. You're going to see some detraction. And we noticed Wednesday a lot less chatter Wednesday about Lane Kiffin. It's just kind of gradually, and now we're starting to hear some other names. Don't forget about this guy. Don't forget about that guy. So either one or two things happen. Yeah, one or two things happen. Auburn has gotten close to something with Lane Kiffin, or they haven't, and they've moved on, or they've got it, and you're going to see some red herrings come up to detract the attention.
Well,
I don't know. I have no idea.
Like catch-22 of sorts, because you don't. I mean, if you're on Lane's camp, we talked about this a little bit, and, y'all may disagree or agree, but you really don't want that getting out. I mean, you don't want it getting out, whether it does or not, because you just don't want to burn that bridge too heavily with the team you're leaving. Maybe he doesn't care. I don't know, but if there is real smoke that he could be Auburn's next head coach, I think the quietness on his name would be a good sign at this point with some play. That's just my feeling on it.
Yeah. Jeffrey, it's almost like you're saying it's almost like you're saying that like there was like almost like a 48-hour period that was like, there was movement and stuff. It's almost like that's what you're saying. And then that was really a really important time potentially. I don't know.
I've got a subscription to this website. We've got some great intel on this thing. Might have heard of it. Auburn Live on 3, $25 will get you to August. Get signed up.
But yeah, you're right. That's where we're at with this thing. Is like you're hearing, some of these names kind of, we mentioned Dabo a couple days ago, just in terms of, hey, it's out there. Can't really confirm anything, but wouldn't shock me if there's conversation, and then that's sort of picking up steam. And Luke Fickell is one that I'm probably going to mention today, is still being in the mix. And so, yeah, that's kind of where you're at now, which kind of goes back to what I was talking about. Cohen's still going to do his job and talk to these people. Because things could break down on the Kiffin front. Hugh Freeze, by the way, is just sitting back there going,
mm-hmm.
You know what we haven't had this time? We haven't had those mass denials from coaches across the country.
Yeah. It's still a joke. Like Lanning, that one was hilarious. Like that, it's 2022, and we still will listen to a coach give that speech, and you'll have people go, "See, Lee's never going anywhere." I'm like, guys, I don't think he's leaving Oregon. I don't know what it would take, but if you think Auburn's not remaining in contact to some degree with him, you're crazy. I took him off the hot board because I think he said no, and to what Auburn was offering. But if Auburn offered the right package, but I don't think Auburn would offer Lanning what they're going to offer Kiffin. I don't think those are two. I don't think they view those guys the same, and you shouldn't. Lanning's 35 and 1 year head coach. I wouldn't view them the same. But if you offered Lanning what you offered, or what I think they're offering Kiffin, like a 10 for 10 or 10 for 12 type of deal, you can bet Dan Lanning's listening and having that conversation. He's not going, I love it in Eugene. It's rainy. It's nowhere near the Southeast. I love it. You can keep your money. Like, no, come on.
Cole, I guess this kind of goes back to what I was saying. If Lane Kiffin is your guy, and I have no idea what's going on, but if he is, and something that happened in those 48 hours, Justin, the most important thing for you to do over the next 10 days is to let it die down, right? Yeah. Take the attention off of that.
Yeah.
Let's put the attention on Dabo. Let's throw Hugh Freeze back in the mix. Not that he's ever been out, but that's what I was saying is and don't think that these guys aren't controlling what gets out.
Right.
And the agents as well. Who can get their other clients can get it out there that their other clients may be communicating with Auburn to make their main target more money, right? I mean, that's how it works.
Yeah, the Dabo one is an interesting one on that. I mean,
that makes no sense to me. Help me.
Everybody's reaction to that. Everybody's like, "What? That didn't make."
I guess Brian Kelly to LSU didn't make any sense either.
Yeah, unless you think, I mean, it doesn't make any sense. But then you'd say, okay, well, what are some reasons that maybe a guy with his stature would leave Clemson? Well, one, but these are just potential things, by the way. And I don't think the guy ends up at Auburn. But one would be winning 10 games at Clemson now isn't enough anymore. That's what he's done there. He's gotten them so good that when he has a 10-win season, he's getting criticized. That caused Steve Spurrier to leave for the NFL. What's another one? What is the ACC's future, guys? Doesn't look great.
I think that's a big one.
Man, that's the only thing I could come up with.
It doesn't look great. If you're the SEC, I got news for you. So the big power brokers in the SEC, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, Florida, Auburn, LSU, they don't want Clemson anywhere near the SEC. And neither does South Carolina, by the way. And then you figure, okay, well, they don't want Florida State. They probably don't want Florida State and Miami in the conference either. So, to get Clemson, you probably have to take a bunch of them. So, what's the future of the ACC? I don't know. I mean, the Big Ten's going to be raking it in. We know that. The SEC's going to continue to rake it in. Are there going to be 2 20-team conferences? And what does that mean for those schools? So, okay, you see all that, but then wasn't he a diehard Bama fan growing up? I mean, you know what I mean? Like things change, obviously, or can change, but it doesn't seem who knows? Doesn't seem like that would be the fit, Justin, that you've talked about before. I don't know.
Well, it's interesting because, okay, is that one that leaked potentially to make Clemson maybe make Clemson fans sort of regain some appreciation for Dabo? Maybe, I don't even know more money, but just where Clemson goes, hey, whoa, like we're good, right? What is this working? Whatever. I think Clemson fans are probably the minute they're like, he may go, maybe it's regaining some appreciation because I don't know the dynamics of Clemson and Dabo. I don't know outside of realignment and NIL, which I don't know their NIL standing. I don't know where they're at. I don't know how much money they've raised. Dabo, of course, has been outspoken in the past, sort of against it in some ways. So that's an interesting thing, or just not a fan of how it's going. You're going to have to adjust. But I don't. But I will say, if you ask Cohen, would it make sense for Dabo in terms of John Cohen? It would. I could see John Cohen absolutely loving the opportunity. If he got to hire somebody like that as his first head coach, I mean, you wouldn't blame him at all. If that didn't work out, it'd be hard to blame John Cohen.
That'd be an attention getter, that's for sure.
Oh my God.
I
don't think it's going to happen.
I think, Keith, you bring up a point that I have not even begun to think about, but the conferences. That's such a great point to me. That gives merit to names like Dabo Sweeney and Luke Fickell, guys that are not in the SEC, because if you have an opportunity to get in the SEC and a school like Auburn that does have NIL and facilities and all of this, it makes the Auburn job look even better to those outside the SEC. With everything going on, there's no certainty that anything but the SEC or these 3 or 4 power conferences, you can't even call them power 5 anymore because they're it's like super conferences forming.
Oh, sorry. We haven't talked a lot about Luke Fickell, and I wonder what you guys think about. I've had people say, "Well, Luke Fickell, is that a big name? What do you guys think about?" I know he's a big name, but I mean, I think
he's a big name. I mentioned him a few minutes ago.
I know, but I mean, we haven't really gone in depth.
Yeah, because I hadn't even had him on the hot board just because there was just nothing there from what I understand. But I think there's maybe some renewed interest there, and I think Auburn stayed in touch with him, and so I'm probably going to actually add him to the hot board as somebody to watch. And so I don't know how I feel. I mean, he's done a great job at Cincinnati. I mean, he's built Brian Kelly. He's done a great job there. I mean, they had really good teams.
But he's an Ohio guy,
right?
Yeah,
no ties. Yeah, I don't know about his ties to the Southeast.
I have a question on him.
That's an interesting fit question. I think.
Well, being that he was 15 years at Ohio State, I think that he's probably recruited the South a lot.
Mm-hmm. So,
that would be, that's
a big difference between him and some other guy that was not a good fit.
That's what I'm asking. I mean, the 15 years at Ohio State makes a big difference in the point I was about to make. But how much different are Cincinnati and Boise State, in your opinion? Are they different? Is Cincinnati much higher than Boise State? What do you think?
I think Cincinnati is more equivalent to the Chris Peterson, Boise than the Brian Harsin Boise.
Yeah.
Or similar, not equivalent, but similar.
Now, having said that, I don't think that's the key thing you should be looking at. I'm just saying, you're talking about a guy that's run that program. If you're worried about recruiting was the one thing nobody knew about Brian Harsin when you brought him in. You knew he was a winner. Nobody denied that. He was winning over there. He won at Arkansas State when he was the head coach there that one year. We just didn't know how he recruited. And it turns out, maybe not the best for Auburn as far as recruiting goes. Not the best for Auburn as far as recruiting goes. Is Luke Fickell in that category? Do we know? I mean, do we have a way to know? Obviously, the Ohio State years helps, but as a head coach, that's my biggest question with Luke Fickell.
I think Luke Fickell signed as many guys from Phoenix City Central in the last 10 years than Auburn has.
He has, yeah.
Right?
I have to go look at their classes. Let's see. Back in the back says Fickell was the head coach at Ohio State for 1 year after the Tressel allegations.
Yeah.
That's true too. And I don't know. I'd have to go look at their recruiting classes. I mean, obviously, really good players and talent. I mean, look at what they've done the past couple of years and how good that team was that competed hard with Alabama. I mean, I don't know how highly some of those guys were ranked. Like Desmond Ritter, I don't know what he was out of high school. Who was that cornerback that they had last year? That was
Gardner.
Gardner was fantastic. Did he develop those guys or not? But recruiting's a massive part of it in terms of just the willingness to get out there and do it. That's what's crazy. Harsin, well, he kind of didn't have both. He didn't have the willingness, and he also didn't have the personality. But man, just some effort would have been nice. But I don't know about Fickell. That's one I think. Fickell and Jeff Grimes both would probably be thrown into a box of Auburn fans going, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how to feel. I'm pretty good, I guess. I don't know. They'll have a hard time picturing him, I think, as the Auburn head coach for a minute.
Yeah. It is kind of a weird picture, honestly.
He wouldn't move that needle for a lot of folks.
Nah, he wouldn't. Luke Fickell would not. Which is, he probably should, but
he's a fantastic coach.
Yeah, he wouldn't move the needle.
When he was at Ohio State, Raekwon McMillan, remember him? 5-star.
Yeah.
That was one of Fickell's recruits out of the state of Georgia. Ohio State's been prominent in the Atlanta area as well, prominent in Florida. They've done
South Florida,
Tampa Bay, South Florida. Yeah, I think he would be. I think when you're at Ohio State, as long as he is, that's the closest thing to an SEC school that's not in the SEC, right? In terms of infrastructure, right. I'd be willing to bet their NIL game is pretty good at Ohio State. There's nothing that they don't do well, and they're not afraid to get in there and mix it up with the Auburns, Alabamas, and Georgias of the world. So I think he's probably would it be a sexy hire? Probably not to some people, but if that is one of your fallback plans, that's a hell. Again, I think he agrees. That's That's a guy that's going to win a lot of football games the next 20 years. I think he's 49 years old. So that's a guy that's still got a lot left in him. And, he really took a bullet for Ohio State when he finished out that season for them, knowing that he probably wasn't going to be the long-term answer there. So I think Ohio State fans sort of look at him in the same way that maybe Auburn fans look at Cadillac right now, quite frankly. That he served their university, and there's something to be said for that too. So
I told somebody yesterday, and I said, the way it's kind of shaping up, I'm like, the way it's shaping up very much looks like, Auburn's going to get a very good football coach. This is not going to be a deal where, with Harsin, you're like, oh, where'd that come from? Like, whether it's Lane Kiffin, whether it's Luke Fickell, whether it's Dan Lanning, whether it's Hugh Freeze, would any of those disappoint? I don't know. I don't think any of those would disappoint. I think all those would be really good hires given the circumstances. So, and then even if it's somebody beyond that, whatever, throw in whoever else, any of the other names we've heard. I think Auburn's going to land a good football coach. I just think they've decided that where college football is going. Here's the crazy thing about Kiffin. If you take away Kiffin's background, and I'm not saying you have to, I'm just saying for a second, look past some of the controversy of how he ended at USC or the Raiders, and he's young and brash and that kind of stuff. And you look at where he is right now. Just look at from Alabama on. Look at from rehabbing with Nick Saban, being at Alabama, OC there, go to FAU, go to Ole Miss. That kind of stretch of, that version of Lane Kiffin. What he thinks about NIL, what he thinks about the transfer portal, how active he is on social media, like all that stuff. He is an A++ hire. If you're like, where's college football going and who do we need to take us there? He is A++++. The only thing about him is you're just you think about all the other stuff and it kind of makes you wonder, whatever. But if you kind of look beyond that, man, he's a perfect hire for where college football is going. He's absolutely perfect.
Yeah, and I talked to some people that worked under him, and they said, what you see, you talk about Lane, what you see is what you get with him was one of the comments. But it's basically that he's a hard guy to work for. He's really demanding, but he's not a micromanager. He gives these guys duties. Hey, you're the third down guy. You're the guy that's you're going to handle the blitz packages, whatever. And then he lets them do their thing. And the guy told me the fun part was, and I think this would be the funnest part for all of us too, was the day that they map out the call sheet for the game. Said that was fun. That's fun with Lane Kiffin because that really gets you into his head. That's what he's thinking. And everybody on the staff, everybody knows on that offensive staff the specific, here's how we're going to attack, here's when we're going to attack, and here's why we're going to attack. There's no guessing. Now, he lets the game come to him, obviously, but it was really interesting to get some insight from people that know him. They like him. People like him. Now, there's always going to be some people that you ruffle their feathers and don't like working with you and all that stuff. But, yeah, he's an interesting guy. And you're right, Justin. I think he does check all the boxes. And it just seems like he's older than he is because he's been around forever, right? But he's not even 50 yet, which in head coaching, that world means he's still pretty young. So he's got all this experience, but maybe the best is still to come. You know what I mean? That's what you're hoping anyway.
Yeah, and somebody asked on the board, they said, when I threw out, hey, this could even be this could even be a $12 million, this could be a $120 million contract. Like that's possible. Some people were like blown away by that. And they're like, oh, is that worth it? Would you throw out that much, or that seems excessive? And I think when you take a step back and look at where college football's at, what he could bring, no, I don't think it is. Imagine in that age is a part of it. You said he's not even 50, Keith, so 47, 48. So imagine if you get it right with Lane Kiffin. Imagine if you hire him and the way he thinks about offense and portal and NIL and what he learned at Alabama. That guy's telling you, that dude picked up a lot of stuff from Nick Saban. He is trying to mimic so much of what went on, a lot, and bring that to his next programs. Like you could easily look back if you hired him the right hire. You could easily look back in 5, 6, 7 years and go, that is the best $120 million contract we've ever signed, and we would have done more, honestly, given it what given what he's done. So I don't think it's a bad investment at all. But he might be the only one, though. I'm not sure I would go that kind of money for anybody else out there. Lanning, Fickle, Freeze. Nobody else, I think, would warrant that except for Kiffin. I think any of those other guys, I think I'm coming down from that, and I can't justify it. But for Kiffin, I can. I feel like.
Is anybody going to be really excited about Hugh Freeze?
Well, we know one person.
I just hope we don't get to November 27th or whatever it is, and Hugh Freeze is the guy, and he had been all along.
I would be excited. That would probably be – I'd probably be the only one of our group. But
I think I would be like, okay.
I'd be like, that's good coach. Good coach.
Okay.
Again, if that's a fallback guy, you're like, hey, man, look, Hugh Freeze is going to win you 9 games a year, man. I have no doubt about that. By the way, Lane Kiffin would be 48 when he coaches his first game next year, wherever he's at. So he's 47 right now.
Same age.
Born in Lincoln, Nebraska. See, this is what I love about the guy and the coaching. His coaching tree actually started before he was born. He was born in Lincoln, Nebraska. The reason is his dad, Monty Kiffin, was Tom Osborne's defensive coordinator at Nebraska, okay, in the heyday of Nebraska. Well, the first run they had in the early 70s. And he comes from that football. I mean, that guy was born. Well, I remember when I wrote about Will Muschamp when he got hired somewhere else, that they said that when he was a kid, he was drawing plays. He had a notebook full of plays, Will Muschamp. And when he played ColecoVision or whatever it was, with his buddies, he'd have this giant notebook of plays that he would hope to run. He lived and breathed football. That's kind of what I get with Lane Kiffin. I know he has an outside life, and I get all that. But I mean, it's kind of like that A Beautiful Mind. You know, these plays in his head. You know what I mean? That's that guy. But yeah, it's interesting. Back to Freeze, though. I mean, I think people in time would be excited. But if you hire Lane Kiffin, you guys, this is what I was going to ask. You imagine what it would be like that first week at On to Victory. The phone calls, the people registering, signing up to give money. I mean, and by the way, Auburn fans are going to give money regardless. Okay, we know that. But boy, that this would be, if this could happen, this would be an intense offseason where Auburn fans would be nirvanic between the day he would be hired to opening day.
And I don't think you would get the type of reaction, the consensus with a Hugh Freeze. I think there would be some apprehension from some guy.
But I think, and I agree with that. But I think within a week or two, when everybody took a step back, they'd say, okay, well, he is a damn good football coach, and he has won everywhere he's been. There are worse guys you could hire than Hugh.
Sure.
I mean, the guy is unbelievable, I think. But Lane is kind of that's the guy right now, right?
Okay, if Lane is an A+++, I would give Hugh Freeze an A.
Yeah.
Which is a great hire. Cole, why would you be, why would you be like over the moon for Hugh Freeze?
I would say in his example, I would say Lane is an A++ hire. Hugh Freeze is a A+. I wouldn't say he's an A. I'd say he's higher than that. I think they're very close, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. I could be very wrong about that. I like Hugh Freeze and the way he runs his offense. I think it's really similar to the way Lane Kiffin does his stuff. I think that obviously he knows how to get a team together. He knows how to get the chemistry right. He knows how to pull from the transfer portal. He's done recruiting very well. I mean, in his career, even at Liberty, he's done well. And he can, and the thing that was supposed to be the calling card of Brian Harsin was evaluation and development. And I think he does both of those things pretty well. And I think it's very obvious when you watch his teams on the field. They actually lead the country in sacks and tackles for loss as well. When you talk about his offense, his defense is killing it too. And they play pretty good competition. They play, Virginia Tech. They played Wake Forest, Arkansas. I mean, they shouldn't be in it with those schools, and they are every time.
That's true. That's very true. Liberty, dude, Liberty.
Obviously,
and they're beating Arkansas.
And the thing that most people, I mean, probably 90% of the people that have a problem with Hugh Freeze is because of his baggage. You're not going to hear anybody go, I just don't think he's a good enough coach.
No, you're right about that. But, I mean, we're talking about Liberty, right? We're talking about, like, Birmingham Southern.
Yes. Liberty. Which is it, correct me if I'm wrong, is it some kind of Christian university, this Liberty?
I think it's a Baptist.
Yeah, it's some kind of Christian university. Yeah.
Okay.
It is very much a Christian university.
They didn't have a problem with his baggage?
Well, I mean, not look. I mean,
Baptist, yes, by the way.
Yeah.
Cole, let me tell you something about Baptists. I was raised one, so I can make that joke.
I was.
Well, you guys have seen Kingpin with Randy Quaid and Woody Harrelson. What does it say in the Bible about forgiveness? You know what I mean? Like, isn't that one of the lines? I mean, so
yeah.
Isn't that one something like that? I mean, look, I mean,
only if they're really good.
They need, well, that's the way the world works, But I mean,
right.
You interview the guy, and if he says, "Look, I screwed up. I need to be a better person. I know I can be a better person," But
man, just think about taking a chance on him. What if he does mess up?
Well,
dude, oh my God.
Well,
risk.
I would say at Liberty there's a lower risk because you would just, hey, we took a chance. We hoped he could get his life turned around, and it didn't work out because you're not really under the microscope at Liberty, And
if they're considering, like Justin is saying, this $120 million, if money is not an issue for Auburn right now, to me, if money was the issue, I would think that's where my Hugh Freeze comes in, because you're going to get him cheap as shit. You're going to get him on the clearance aisle, right? Comparatively speaking.
Yeah.
There's no way money. I mean, you're getting all this money from TV. You've paid the last two coaches to leave. You got money, okay? You got money.
But do you have any left over after you've paid all that?
You don't make those moves and then all of a sudden.
Oh, well, that's true.
You don't have any money now.
That's true.
Well, I mean, because otherwise you wouldn't have got rid of the last couple guys. So
Yeah, I'm not going to spend my last $45 million to make coaches leave and then be stuck with a.
I'm with Justin. Like, I think people, well, I don't know if this is what he was trying to say, but I think people harp on the money part too much. I mean, there's people at Auburn, the amount of people that make six figures is ridiculous when you start going through the list at these universities. There's TV money's flowing in. It's come on. You want the guy, you're going to get the guy you want. It's not like, I don't think people are penny pinching like they used to.
I think the biggest question for negotiation with Lane Kiffin is, I would imagine that Kiffin is saying, I want the kind of control that Nick has.
Give it to him.
I want the kind of control, the deal that they struck when Saban came on board. I want that deal.
Give it to him.
Whatever that is. And, Cohen obviously – is an experienced AD, friends with Greg Byrne, all those guys. He probably knows the history of that type of deal, but that's probably where I would say the sticking point, and not a sticking point. That's a bigger discussion, I think, than money. If he was like, hey, this is what I want money wise, they'd be like, okay, I think we can do it. And if he said, this is what I want control wise, I think there'd be like, okay, let's talk through that. Not that they won't, but that's where this is at. That's me that would hang it up is I'm talking about full control, top to bottom, full control the way Nick has it. That's what he wants, man.
Why wouldn't you give that to him?
Yeah, I agree. I
mean, I don't understand that. But if money's not an issue, then I don't think that highly of Hugh Freeze. Cole probably does. I don't think if money's an issue and you want a guy who's going to be relatively cheap and you want a guy who you can control somewhat, Hugh Freeze is the perfect candidate for you. He is the perfect coach for you. You can get him for $5-6 million a year. You can control him how you want to control him. He will, like I said, crawl over here on broken glass with his butt cheeks spread. That's your guy.
That was a great visual. Thank you.
If you want to spend $100 million on an A++ coach, he's not your guy. You can do better.
But what if he's an A plus? He's an A plus coach with
And a high risk.
High risk, yes. High risk, high reward, right? With less money spent, is that a win too, or is that a loss?
I just think you can't look. Auburn is such a sensitive point in its history right now. You make the wrong choice here. I don't think you can afford to hire a high risk guy.
I totally agree, which is why I feel like Luke Fickell and Jeff Grimes are the exact risk to me.
I'll give Fickell the benefit of the doubt. Jeff Grimes has zero head coaching experience. If you're going to pay $100 million for a guy, Jeff Grimes is not your man. Hugh Freeze is not your man. Luke Fickell, I don't know enough about him. He's a winner. All right.
Yeah,
but he's not Southern.
To me,
he's not SEC. He has no background in the SEC. If you're going to hire $100 million, if you're going to invest $100 million in a coach, allegedly, as they would with Lane Kiffin, those three guys are off my list.
To me, the highest risk in this whole search is not knowing much about the guy. Just like we're saying, not knowing much about Fickell. We don't know what Jeff Grimes would be able to do. To me, the top two guys that you know the most about are Lane Kiffin and Hugh Freeze. We know the most about them. We know we have enough evidence that they can do it.
Knowing enough about Hugh Freeze, though, tends to lead me to not hiring.
Well, that's again, there comes a new risk.
By the way, Lane Kiffin is been in the SEC now for a while, so people, I'm not ripping you, Jeff, but people think that he's a Southern guy, but the guy was born in Lincoln. He went to college at Fresno State. He went to high school in Minnesota. He coached at USC for a bunch of years, then with the Raiders. He was a GA at Colorado State. So he's not a Southerner, but he knows the lay of the land in the South. And
that's a very,
yeah,
and I think a very underrated aspect of this when we're talking about personality and we get started talking about like Hugh Freeze is a politician and like what will Lane be like? And
dude, Lane's been at Alabama. He's been at Tennessee. He's been at Ole Miss.
Yeah, he knows how it's going to work, but I think, and I don't know. I don't know. I don't know necessarily why I think this. Obviously, I know Bruce. I think that their relationship, Bruce and Lane, going back to Tennessee, I think would benefit Lane greatly at Auburn. I really do think if he ended up at Auburn, having Bruce here and what Bruce has done and how he works things, and they're already having a relationship, I really think that would help Lane sort of acclimate. Hey, just do a little bit more. Just do a tad more, man. You don't have to go crazy. Just give him a little bit of something. I really think he could learn a little bit and make some good strides in terms of just a couple more things involved, what community, whatever, just to make Auburn fans happy. I think Bruce would be an unbelievable influence for Lane being on the same campus. Like, I really think that's maybe an underrated part of this if it does happen. I do.
So let's go back to 13 years ago, 2009 at Tennessee. Could you have ever imagined, obviously we don't know if Lane's going to end up at Auburn or not for sure, but could you have ever imagined? It's funny how things really change over a decade or so. Bruce Pearl and Lane Kiffin would be coaching together at an SEC West school in 13 years. And, it's just kind of funny. It's
wild.
It's cool to think about the possibilities, but obviously, we got to see how this plays out.
It is wild to think about, and they both ran into their NCAA issues at Tennessee, and now Bruce I think is still very well liked there. Tennessee fans can say whatever, but they're crazy if they don't still like him. Lane's a different story, but man, yeah. So we'll see. I still think it's Lane right now, and until it's not. I guess I'll have to go. I don't know. Maybe I'll call in next week and ask Lane the question since nobody else will.
Be the hero we need, Justin.
Can you get some final thoughts from Jeffrey on that?
Yeah.
Be the hero Ole Miss fans deserve.
I want Jeffrey
to criticize me for asking a question they should have asked me. They can criticize that.
I want Jeffrey to call in to the teleconference, and say, "How about you, Lane?"
Hey, how about you? Since these cowards over here in Oxford won't do it, I'm having to call in from Auburn.
Yeah, how about you, everybody? This is Jeffrey Lee, Auburn Live. Lane, quick question: are you going to Auburn or what? What's the deal?
Did hear that impression again, Keith? It was really good. I mean, you had me fooled.
Yeah, will you be the next head coach at Auburn? Like, that's probably the best thing, because he's probably going, shit, I don't want to flat out lie. Like, I don't want to straight up be on the record as lying. So if my answer is, look, guys, boom, all right, there you go.
I'm not answering that question.
Why is it so hard? Like, how come this has been going on for 50 years and there's not just one standard answer that they all would give? They all say, half of these guys seem like they can't believe somebody asked it when it's asked. Like, just say, hey, I appreciate the question, but right now my focus is solely on the Ole Miss team that I'm coaching right now. The guys deserve it. I'm not trying to. I understand you guys got to do a job, but my focus is with these guys right now, and that's not a denial. That's not a accept. That's where my focus is, and I'd appreciate. Next question. It's not that hard.
There's only two ways to answer that question: is no, I'm not interested in that job. I'm here to stay. This is where I want to retire, and then not answering it that way. There's only two ways you can answer it. One is like Dan Lanning did, or are you going to lie?
Which Dan Lanning did. It was a great answer. But, he just turned it and just said, I'm going to do nothing. I'm going to speak nothing but positive things about Oregon. He didn't deny anything. He just said, hey, sometimes.
I thought he said, no, I'm not going or something.
Oh, I'd have to go back and read it. He may have. I took it as like, hey, look, Oregon's got everything I would want. I love it. My kids love it. It's everything that I would want.
That's probably the best way to do it.
And you're like, well, that's all true. But it doesn't mean that something else couldn't draw you from it. Like, I would just say, look, man, this place has got everything that I would, that I love everything about this place or whatever, and which is to be true. And
there's either a denial or a non-denial. I guess to simplify what I was saying earlier, you either deny it or you're not.
Yeah.
And
you can say no comment and leave it completely open to interpretation.
Oh man, that would get them going.
I'm sorry. What'd you say? I don't know.
Yeah.
You just play dumb. All right. Do you want to do prize picks real quick?
Prize picks, baby. Prize picks. Prize picks, Matt. We love it. We're all getting in on that, whether you're a fantasy sports nut or a casual fan looking to add some excitement to the game. Prize picks is the perfect game for you. It's the best way to have action in the game in states like Alabama. Hell, over 70% of the United States, 30 states in Canada. You simply select 2 to 5 players and predict if they will go more or less than their prize picks projection. You can win up to 10 times your money on any entry. And download the app, visit prospects.com, sign up using the code WAREAGLE, all caps, one word, to get instant 100% bonus up to $100 on your first deposit. So if you deposit $100, Prospects will give you $100. If you deposit $50, Prospects will give you $50. Don't forget that the Prospects app or prospects.com and the code WAREAGLE, all caps, one word, to claim your bonus today and get to picking. Get to picking, man. More or less. We don't have any numbers for the Auburn-Western Kentucky game this weekend, understandably so. I did notice that Quinshon Judkins for Ole Miss against Arkansas, his more or less is 115.5 rushing yards. That's a pretty steep projection. But now, Cole, Arkansas is not a great run defense. If I'm not mistaken, Auburn.
They're just not a great defense.
There you go.
Bottom line.
So 115.5, more or less.
That's probably better.
Yeah, that's pretty tough. Also, while we're all projecting, so anyways, go Prospects, man. Get that 100% deposit match. Start playing. You can play on any sport. A lot of fun, and you can hedge. You can flex. You can a lot of options in there to have fun with, man. It's been a lot of fun for Cole and myself. Zach in the back's got the line at Auburn minus 5.5 this weekend over Western Kentucky with an over and under of 52.5. Want to get some picks in before we go? Before we wrap it up?
Yep.
5.5. I don't know much about Western Kentucky. Matter of fact, all I know is they're the Hilltoppers, and now I know why they're called the Hilltoppers. Y'all know more than I do. I'm looking at the line. Again, no way I'm picking Auburn to lose. But I wouldn't be surprised if they did.
I'm gonna say. Oh, Zach says 34-31.
Okay.
I was thinking 34 for Auburn. I feel like Auburn will. I don't know. I mean, Western Kentucky's got a really good offense. I think Auburn will do okay against it. I mean, I think you faced a little bit of it against Mississippi State. I think they're simplified things a little bit last few weeks. So I think they hold them somewhat in check, which is really just tackling. They're going to rack up yards. It's just tackle. Let them get yards, make tackles, hold them to field goals, whatever. So I'm going to go 34. I'm going to go 34-20, Auburn.
Okay. 2 touchdowns.
Something like that.
Okay.
I could see, I think Western Kentucky could easily get to 400 yards, something like that, but maybe Auburn gets a pick or something. 34-20.
Okay.
Competitive game.
Keith Niebuhr.
How about you, everybody?
Hey, how about you?
Let's go. I'm going to say Auburn 30-27. Back and forth game. If you're Western Kentucky, you're probably smelling a little blood. This is a Super Bowl type game for you. And Auburn just had the big emotional game last week. That's why they're having to implore people to show up this week to kind of keep that same thing going. But it's not going to be the same. We know that. So it's going to be a tough game. I mean, it really could probably go either way. But watch, it'll end up being a blowout now. But I'll say 30-27 Auburn. I think they'll be able to run the ball, mix in some passes, some play action, some deep balls, stuff like that. So should be entertaining.
Okay. Cole Pinkston.
I'll give one of those weird number scores. I'll go 32-17. I like the trend of the defense creating some turnovers right now. I think Derek Hall, I think Kobe Wooden are in a groove. I think they're going to get to the quarterback and possibly get that ball out a few times because that's what they want to do. They want to stand there and throw. So I like that matchup, and I like Auburn's secondary pretty well too. So.
Hey, I'm liking what I'm seeing from Auburn's defense. I've got it like 27-16 late in the game, and Western Kentucky scores to make it 27-23 and cover. So I've got Auburn 27-23 in a game that wasn't as close as the final score.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I think the key will be if Auburn can build on the creative running plays, the creative running game from last week, that'll be massive just to keep the ball at 36 minutes of time possession. You do that against Western Kentucky, you're in good shape. If you also are tackling well on defense, you're going to be in good shape. I mean, you win that thing 36 minutes to 26 or 25, whatever it was. So I think that'll be huge to keep running the football like that. And who knows? Maybe this is a game where Ashford breaks out a little bit and has some success in the passing game. But
yeah,
it helps out. I mean, I don't know Western Kentucky. I can't imagine that they have the type of defense. If Auburn goes in there and completes another 6 balls against Western Kentucky, gosh, I mean, come on, we got to be a little better than that against Western Kentucky, right? Like, go 15-25, right?
It's kind of hard to believe that Ashford completed 24 passes and had a QB rating of 150 against Arkansas. Isn't that hard to believe after you've seen the last couple of weeks?
Didn't he throw for over 300 against LSU?
Yeah.
Did he?
Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
338, I think.
That's because the focus at that time was on his quarterback development. The focus now is on let's get the ball moving on the ground.
Yep.
Well, but now that you've been able to run the last 2 weeks, that should theoretically then open some things up in the passing game, right? Isn't that how it works? Coach?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such good work, Keith. But you never know. You never know with all that. All right, cool. Well, let's wrap it up. We'll be back next week to preview the Iron Bowl, man. Isn't that crazy?
Ooh, wow.
Actually, we'll have to figure out next week because normally we record on Thursday mornings. That's Thanksgiving, so we'll have to figure out a new day. I'm actually going.
We're all going to be getting ready for our Egg Bowl watch parties that morning anyway. So.
Oh.
No doubt.
So maybe we'll aim for another. We'll try to figure out another day.
Maybe Wednesday night, maybe. It's up to you guys.
Something like that. All right, cool. Appreciate everybody for joining us. AuburnLive.com. Go subscribe. $25, and that gets you access till the start of next football season, I think, and that will end quickly. So just take advantage of that. Appreciate everybody joining us, and we'll catch you next time. See ya.